Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Southampton, part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. I am your host today. My name is Zak and Finch. I am joined by Oscar. How you doing, bud?
Yeah, all good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Are you looking forward to a return to non-international football, or real football, as Greg often calls it?
Well, as much as I think you can.
I think that's the problem, right? Like, as a Saints fan at the moment, trying to look forward to football, it's like, that's a big ask, especially with potentially relegation confirmed if we lose.
Yeah,
it's pretty harrowing. But I guess we'll talk about either way. So, to those of us that listened in to yesterday, we had a crossover with Dan from the Daily Palace. It was good fun. Greg tried to pretend that it's all going to be all right. I said otherwise. So yeah, it's just we come off the back of a busy international break. Obviously, Greg pointed out yesterday that I think that Alfie House tweeted out that it's been like 17 days in a row since Saints have been beaten, which is like the longest period of time since this season began, only because we haven't played a game, which is harrowing statistic. But maybe we have more room for positivity a little bit. We also went through last week, I can't remember if you were there or not, Oscar, but we were going through like our next run of games, potentially where we can pick up points. And I've established that barely anywhere is the answer. Maybe this game, maybe we can at least, I think we should go in to grind out a draw. However, it does kind of feel like we have no idea what Juric is doing 9 times out of 10. And again, like, baffling to go 3 at the back again and having no striker at the start of Wolves. And we're now, I just don't know what to predict. How do you see this game playing out? What do you think? How you feel?
Yeah, I think he changed it for the Liverpool game probably because of who Liverpool are, and realised if he doesn't change it, then the likelihood is that we would have got absolutely popped. I don't really understand why he changed it back, if I'm honest, but it seems like that's his go-to, and I think he'll probably stick with it as much as I don't think he should. You'd like to think you'll learn from the Wolves game that A, it's not going to work, and B, it's not going to go down very well if it doesn't work again. So I really see what's the harm in him changing it? It's not exactly like it's working, and it's not going to damage his reputation, because you can say, well, we had to try and change something. Everyone will, yeah, fair enough. It's not unless it goes like monumentally wrong. So I'd play. We drew with Palace last time. They're one of the few teams we've got points off of. I know they are in a better place. We didn't.
We lost 2. We lost 2-1. They won. It was one of the.
Better performance.
Better games. Yeah, it was. But it was a standard. So Diblin scored early on, and then we were put to the sword pretty quickly after with Trevor scoring 1, followed by Eze. But it was the game that, like, Mateta, like, completely just ran around Ben Arek the entirety of the game, where, like, me and Greg were just sat there like, how has Ben Arek not been sent off?
Yeah, exactly. He spent 90 minutes fouling him and get nothing.
But it feels like it should have been a draw, and it feels like it's one of the games we should be able to at least pull a draw from. And although Crystal Palace are in fantastic form right now, I don't want to use the phrase that Greg uses, which is it could be a banana skin. But like, if we go out there and actually put something together, it could. And it's just, again, like, at this point in my head, I'm just like, surely these players want to fight for some pride. You don't want to go down as the worst Premier League team in history.
No.
All you need to do is get a win to win. But again, if you just grind out some results, if you build on something, anything, I just hope that the last 17 days away or whatever, I know that not the entirety of the squad hasn't been together, but they've maybe gone back to basics a little bit and decided to take the games to them. Because you're right, there is absolutely no harm in changing anything we're doing right now, because nothing has been working.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's no point trying to stick with it. It's not going to get better towards the end of the season. It's not like the run of games we've got coming up are going to be easier. As I said, the only way that I think that we will end up getting past that 12 points is by beating Everton at Goodison Park as some sort of cosmic joke to completely ruin their last ever game there, because that would play a wonderful narrative. But
last time we went down, that was one of our very few wins, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Scored a fluky free kick.
That checks out.
We beat them 1-0.
And they're also one of our only teams we've beaten this season. Them and Ipswich. That's it. Which, when you think about it, is nuts that 2 wins out of, if you look at the fact that we've got 9 points and Palace have 39, whole 30 points more than us. And they had a similar start to the season as us as well. And as I was discussing with Dan and Greg yesterday, very much feels like Palace are in a position of where Saints were a couple of years ago. Like, we're not exactly pushing for top. We're not really pushing for Europe, although the state of the European places Palace kind of are at this point.
Yeah.
But like, we were consistent. Our team wasn't changing hugely. We would go on a run. We'd have a bad run. But it wasn't like what it is now, where it's just like catastrophic failing after catastrophic failing.
Yeah.
So it's just a bit bizarre. But it is one of the few teams where I'm looking at and I'm like, where are we going to take points from? It's going to be probably this game, potentially Leicester, and as I said, maybe Everton. But then Everton under Moyes now have got the injection that they needed to get kind of back into doing better. It's just a whole...
Well, they've built a solid base, which again, Southampton don't seem to have understood for the last 3 years that's what you have to do. You have to build a solid foundation.
You can't just keep switching it every time. Yeah. You can't just go, I'm going to try this type of football. I'm going to try this type of football. I'm going to try this type of football. Then all of a sudden you've got like, if you're a player and you're running in your head, you're like, which type of ball do I need to pass at this point? I know, I'll just sky it. And you're like, good. That's the worst thing you could have done.
Yeah. I don't know if Mateta played at the weekend, didn't he? Because I think I saw him playing with some sort of facial option on, which that's a bit of a shame. My only slight thing would be maybe they'll rest him. I don't know. That's the only thing. The hope that I have, because if there is no Ben Arek, and Ben Arek struggled to deal with him last time, I don't know who comes in to deal with him.
That's the thing, especially we'll talk in the next section about sort of team selection, as we always do, because we've obviously got potentially a few concerns. Full disclosure, we are recording this before the presser, just because of schedules, guys. Sometimes it's really hard. we all have busy lives and full-time jobs, and we fit this in somehow daily. So we didn't get a chance to listen to the presser yet, but we are aware of some concerns off the back of the break. So we'll chat about that after a word from our partners at Bionique.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionique, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionique provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimize your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionique. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
And we are back. So, obviously we're talking about team selection a little bit. Ramsdale was withdrawn from the England squad. Everyone initially worried it was an injury. Turns out it's just they didn't want him, which is an indictment. Obviously, we've discussed many times that he's probably not going to be here next season, but obviously until that stage, he's probably first on the team sheet. So, if we are potentially missing Ben Arek and Harwood-Bellis, who might be out of injury, from what I can remember, Harwood-Bellis' injury was, I think, precautionary more than anything. They just kind of sent him home because they didn't want to risk him. Ben Arek clashed heads again, where at this point, I don't know what's going on. It's got a bit of an eggshell going on right there, constantly cracking heads. So I guess we'll see if he's well enough to play. If both of them are out, what do we do? Do we actually play centre-backs at centre-backs? That feels like a wild conception at this point.
Yeah. It's like playing Juric bingo at this point.
It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult to just guess, because it's like, at one point we had Stevens playing up front. Yeah. And we've had Jeremiah in defence. So it's like...
Yeah, I don't get it. If it were me, I think for the most part of this season under Juric, I've had a if it were me, this is what I'd do, and this is what I actually think he'll do, because he doesn't.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I would go with a back four if it were me. Again, reset to type, and it's the one game we've actually looked okay defensively, and I would go if he is fit, then I would start Harwood Bellis. I'd have Walker Peters, Harwood Bellis, Jack Stevens possibly, or Nathan Wood, although he doesn't seem to like him, because I think Nathan Wood maybe be able to deal with Mateta a little bit more, because he's at least a little bit more athletic, and Ryan Manning as a back four. But I suspect that won't happen. I think it will be a back five or three, and it will be, well, I'm not 100% sure about the wing backs, but potentially Sugawara, Harwood Bellis, Bella Kotchap, and Joe Aribo, I think, is probably what he'll end up doing. Left wing back.
It's a harrowing indictment of our season, isn't it? That it's just, we're having to literally roll a dice every game, and you're right. Like, I'm sat there like, well, surely he would not play Joe Aribo at centre back, and then it's like I've managed to like put a mental block to the fact that even happened when we had centre backs to play there, because it's like, oh well, he's not left footed enough, and it's like, it was kind of nice to see us come to an end of the injury crisis, and then it seemed to not really make much of a difference anyway. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'd much prefer sort of that back four, because it did so well. But he's going to go, well, it's not Liverpool, is it? It's Palace. It's like, yeah, Palace that still beat you, because bear in mind, I think this is the first repeat game that Juric has had. This is the second game against one club under the same, because obviously he was in charge. It was 29th of December, I think, the last game. So he just got in charge, just been in charge. He'd been in charge for the West Ham game, and I think this might have been second or third. Has he learned anything, do you reckon?
Well, if I recall correctly, that was a game that we were ahead, and basically the game completely spun when he took off Ugachukwu. Because he was controlling midfield, and again is the one athletic player that we've got, and we know Palace are full of athletic, powerful players, good runners with the ball. And I think losing Ugachukwu from that middle and basically ending up with a midfield two with Aribo and Smallbone, I believe, I can't remember exactly, but sort of is what did for us. So I'd like to think that he will keep at least Ugachukwu on. Who plays alongside him again is a bit of a mystery. I mean, if you go with my back four, then I'd play Aribo next to him. Again, I'd still like to see Flint Downs and Ugachukwu in a double pivot, but no one seems to have liked that idea. So
it'll be interesting to see what it's like under Juric, because I know it didn't really work as much under Martin. But then also, I just don't think he managed to get the best out of Ugachukwu early on, and sort of prioritise Downs, which is understandable at the time why you would do that. So it would be interesting to see him play now. But again, it's like, how much faith do we have in Juric to actually put out a team that he thinks is going to win? And that's like, I know it sounds crazy because we sound so critical for people that aren't football managers. But like, also look at the run of our, like, the last couple of run of games. Look at our season, and look at the fact that he came in and said, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll make sure, like, we'll bring this heavy metal style of football, and also I will compromise if I need to." And the only compromise so far seems to have been Liverpool, where it just resulted in us scoring, and that still wasn't a win, was it? And it's, as you said before, it's all these like plucky little losses where, like, we lost 5-1, but that one goal was fantastic.
But we under Martin, and we were creating much more. So, like, realistically, what has he come in and changed? If we were losing every week, but it was not just plucky, but it was, you could see everyone was fighting for the same thing. You could see everyone's working hard and at least buys into what they're doing. Then fair enough. I don't think you'd get any Saints fans moaning about it. I don't think you'd have. But it just seems like at the moment it's. I'm going to come in, I'm going to stick rigidly to a philosophy and not adapt it. And maybe that's just the modern way now, I don't know. Whereas, like, for me, and that, obviously not at the same level of coaching by any stretch of imagination or whatever, but you do what you need to. I personally think you set up based on what you have in your team and you work it that way, rather than you make the players fit into whatever you're trying to do. But, I know Greg's gone on about it, styles of play and philosophies. Like, I think there's an element of it. You've got to have certain principles.
It's just logic, right? It's like looking at something, seeing it's not working, and then trying to fix it, rather than looking at something, seeing it's not working, and then just going, well, clearly they just need to try harder, or clearly we need to just drill in that they need to make this pass better. And it's like, well, after a while, like if it still isn't working, change it. And that is the simple answer to those questions: is that there is something that isn't working. Stop doing the thing that isn't working. Try something
I
else.
don't think Saints fans are unrealistic. Like, I think we all know what the situation is. We all understand that Juric was given a poison chalice when he started. But just recognise certain things. Is it a good idea to leave Arma Bella Kotchat one-on-one with Pedro Neto? No, probably not. Like, recognise that and think, oh, we shouldn't have done that. Maybe we should switch it to not expose our centre backs 1v1 against very fast wingers or attackers. Like, again, it's just adaptation, which we don't seem to be able to do. And I'm hopeful that someone like Spores being there as well to be another football brain, which obviously there doesn't seem to be much of. Again, I'm not criticising Sports Republic too much in terms of the things that they're doing, but certainly I think there's not much football awareness behind them.
No.
As was seen, without Jason Wilcox. Like, it was just left to Martin, and we trust him to do whatever he's going to do. So maybe that is something that will help, but I don't think that will start helping till next year, unless they've got into him in these last couple of weeks, which is a possibility, I suppose.
This is the thing, right? Like, it's trying to find something that works. So, like, obviously, to make sure I point out the fact that I have at least contradicted myself once in this podcast today, by saying at the beginning, like, one of the reasons that Palace have done so well is that they've kind of built on something and not had to chop and change as much as we have. And we're talking now about how we should chop and change more. But the problem is it's that they have found something that works for them. We are not finding something that works for us. And they're saying, oh, we need some time to bed in a philosophy. And it's like, well, we had that with Martin. It still didn't work. So we've changed it, but we haven't really changed it dramatically. And also, the way that Juric does it is so erratic because, again, it's things like, well, because of the fact that I want a left-sided player to be at centre-back, despite the fact he's not a centre-back, I'm going to stick Joe Aribo there. And that's when we start to question it a little bit. And I think it's just having, yeah, exactly as you said, just adaptability. Adaptability is a big thing, and team cohesion will be another. And that will have to be built from the ground up because I just don't think that the players at the moment, at this point, it's like brothers in arms in the trenches, but all you're actually thinking about is going home. And I don't really blame the players either because it's got to be harrowing, but it is also understanding it's that little bit of pride. Now, I'm aware that we talked about the defence and not much else for this half because, as I think you pointed out, Oscar, it's just rolling the dice, isn't it? Like, it really, when we talk about team selections week in, week out, at the moment, it's so hard because it's like, so how about I pose a really simple question? Do you reckon we'll start with a striker?
Well, I've heard rumours that there's been a lesser spotted Ross Stewart in training this week.
Interesting.
So that could be interesting. I don't think he'll start, and I don't think if he does play, I think there'd be a sweepstake on whether he lasts more than 10 minutes or even 5. But could that be an option? Maybe. I think Onuachu. I think you've got to mix it up a bit with Palace. Don't get me wrong, they're obviously a lot better at doing that than us, and maybe playing through the lines is a better way of doing it. But I just think, again, Onuachu, if he's there, he gives defenders something to think about. So I would probably start him. And it also probably determines what we're going to do with him for the rest of the season, right? I mean, again, we did our buy, keep, sell. For going forwards. I personally think, would he score goals in the Championship? Probably. But I don't think he wants to be here. But if he's going to be, then he needs to start proving it, and we need to get him scoring goals. So, yeah, I would start with a striker. But again, who knows? I've actually noted down that in my Juric formation that I think Matty Fernandez will sit there and he'll have Dibbling and Sulemana sort of as inverted wingers. But in my 4-3-3, I'd have him up front.
Yeah, it's what you'd like to see, right? Like strikers playing in the position, and I think as you were talking about with the way that Palace are, you need to give them more than one thing to think about. I think, and my concern is that if we're going to play pretty much the same way we've played so far this season under Juric, they're going to go, okay, well, they're going to try and do this, and they're not even really that good at it. So I guess we'll just defend really well and then get the goal in the 30, in the 60, which is what they did last time round. And, the rest will be history. But we'll take a little break to hear from our partners at Zencastr. Then I'm going to ask your score prediction. I gave mine yesterday. I'll remind the audience of that, and also Greg's. And then we'll wrap up for the day before the return of real quote-unquote football. Until then, here is a word from our partners at Zencastr. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. So, we are back. Do you have a score prediction, Oscar? Is it as happy as mine? Let's find out. What do you think the score will be today?
Well, I've tried to be a bit more optimistic recently and predicted a couple of wins, and it's not gone too well. I mean, in fact, I don't think you could be called too optimistic about attempting to beat a relegation rival at home, but
apparently not.
Apparently not. I've put down again. I've sort of split into heart and head again. Heart's not exactly that optimistic, but head I've gone 1-1. I think we've got enough quality to be able to compete if we do things in the right way. I think we score, but probably not more than one, to be fair. And I think it will probably be sort of a bit of a cagey 1-1, maybe we nick one, they equalise. The trouble I have with that is that whenever that happens, if we score first, we tend to lose. Whenever we score second, we tend to lose. So I don't really know. My heart, I've gone with a 2-1 win. I don't see it happening. I can't see us scoring 2 goals at the moment. But, you've got to predict. If we're at home against Palace, you've got to be predicting, got to be at least hoping for a win. But I think we can get a draw out of it. And I'll take the record.
For sure. It's interesting how the time off has changed all of our opinions a little bit. And by that, I mean a real little bit. So Greg, unsurprisingly, went for a 2-1 win because he can't predict the loss ever. And at least now, he's quite honest about the fact that we never keep clean sheets. Because there were times he was always going 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. It's always at least 2-1 now. I predicted a 2-0 loss because, again, I think you're right. We've got the quality there to probably at least get a draw out of it if we play the right way. I just don't have faith that we're going to be set up to play the right way. So I just think it will be a routine because, as Dan said yesterday, Palace aren't out for blood. They're very much happy to sort of score 1 or 2 and then just defend really, really well. So that's how I see it playing out. Just sort of, that doesn't mean that I don't think we'll try. I just don't think that we've got the form at the moment to get the goals or do well.
I forgot their attacking options as well. I forgot about the likes of Eze and Ishmael.
It's not like
one's optimistic, but I'll stick with it for now.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. So across the team, we've got a win and a draw and a loss, which I think is the perfect balance we need for this podcast. Because if not, it will just be me drowning out poor Greg with how miserable I am. And plus, as I said to you many times before, it's really nice to bring a head of football intelligence to me and Greg chatting absolute rubbish. Whether or not you think, it's youth coaching, you still do far more coaching than me and Greg, mate. So I don't count playing Football Manager as real coaching because it's a game. So you can manipulate the statistics in the right way. That means you can just win everything if you try enough. But yeah, either way, I think that we'll leave it there for today. Either way, football's back. Hopefully, it gives us something to smile about. Hopefully, everyone that goes down to St Mary's gets the win that they want. Happy birthday to Greg's little boy, who will also be able to enjoy his game at St Mary's. Please, Southampton, do something to make us smile on this midweek fixture. We hope. We would love to get past that 12 points, because then even if we're relegated, we're not the worst Premier League team of all time. And at this point, that is all we can hope for. Thank you for joining me, Oscar. I hope you had a nice time. We'll be back with you tomorrow. I don't know what we're going to be doing tomorrow because I've just realised. Review. That's a ridiculous question from me, isn't it? What are we doing tomorrow? We'll be back with a match review for the Palace game, where we'll either be as joyful as I am right now or miserable. Let's hope it's not the latter. And with that, I will bid you all farewell and thank you. And we'll see you in the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.